mean, the last talk when Ramesh was here on stage, the first 10 minutes I thought about a new idea, and the next 10 minutes I conceptualized it and created it. How many of you are from Bangalore? So my new idea requires, what it can do is, if you have a thought, I'll fire a beam, it will change your thought, okay? All it needs is for that person to be tied into a chair. So tie Ramesh here, we'll make Hyderabad, Bangalore. Okay, that's what Okay, guys. Do I have a... Yeah, there it is. So thanks to Zinnov for having me here for this session. I think I've spoken on Zinnov events a few times now, and it is very exciting. And I've known Pari since 2002 when he started Zinnov, and sometime in 2003 he was talking to me about his vision that he had in his mind, and I was quite excited about it. And it's really good, Pari, to see that vision taking shape. Congratulations on a great conference, and hope to, all of us will partner with you to take this industry to greater levels. So thank you to Zinnov. Thanks to Bally. I'm not going to speak to you about Bally. I've been asked to speak to you about myself. It's hard, but I'll try. But then thanks to Bally, because of which I'm here, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So thank you to Zinnov and Bally. With that, all of us would agree that, life is a bouquet of choices, right? That's what it is. And it's entirely up to what kind of choices get presented to us and what we do with those choices. That's what it is. And then just think about it, that you are standing in front of a roller coaster park, a thrill park, and you are entering it. And then there are two things that you can do. You are there. You made a choice because of which you are there. And now you are there, and then in front of you see a span of roller coasters that are spread across, right? And then certain things come to your mind, and you can behave in a few ways. All depends on the choices that you make. So one of them could be that you look at those roller coasters and get that tremendous surge of excitement in you. Wow, this is going to be a great day. I'm going to feel that thrill of going up and down. It's going to be really, really exciting for me for the next few hours. You feel that thrill or surge in you. The other is you look at it and say, oh my God, where the heck am I? What am I going to do? Will I come out alive? Will I come out dead? Will my people have an obituary or not? How will I survive? Will I vomit when I'm in it? Will my stomach come out through my lungs? What's going to happen, right? The other option is maybe you can just get onto it, and then things will happen. You will go up, you will go down, you will go around, you will turn around, you will do all that, and then various things will happen, and while all that is happening, you will make your choices. I think my life was the third option. I just got in. I think I was in that roller coaster park, and I don't even know when I got in. There were people who were pushing me from behind. I just got in there, and then that's what it was. So truly, yes, I think life is a roller coaster ride, and I think if I were to preach in this session, which I don't want to, but if I were to, I would say, just enjoy the ride, get into it, and then things work out by themselves. Don't spend too much time before you get in thinking whether you're going to enjoy it or you're going to, not enjoy it. I think, I grew up as a rebel, that's what I would like to call myself. When I look back into my childhood, I was really a rebel. I had questions about, my mother would say, come with us to the temple, and I would say, why? I can pray to God sitting at home. I can pray to God when I'm playing cricket. I can do whatever I want. And then you say this ritual, you got to do this ritual, a classic Tam-Bram family, very disciplined and all that, but I was a rebel in that disciplined environment. And I would say, why? What is the logic? What is the meaning? That's the kind of, background in which I grew up, or, that the background was a disciplined background, but I was a kind of an out of space there in a rebellious environment. And then, what I really want to do as part of this is, I want to tell you my story as much as I can and as good as I can, but I really do want to, convert my experiences into certain values that you can also take note of. And that's really what I want to do. My values, essentially, either they came to me from my experiences. So I would have an experience and think, wow, this makes sense, in terms of a value that I've heard of, or some elder has taught me, or I've gone to school and learned, and so on and so forth. Or I would have a value, and then the experience would justify that value. That's how it was, and that's what I would like to endeavor to do with you today. As a student, like I said, I was a rebel. One of the rebellious nature of a student is that I questioned, why exams? Why do I have to study this? I know it, and why exams was a big rebellious attitude in me. So I was pretty much, it's not that the numbers and the equations there foxed me, because oftentimes, and my mother had this huge problem with me, because my friends and classmates would come, sit with me, discuss, we would talk about the subject, we would go through the equations together, and then at the end of the day, Ramesh, my friend, not either of the other Rameshes, Ramesh, my friend, would score more than me. And that really caused a lot of pain to my mother, But that was entirely because of my rebellious attitude. And now looking back, if I were to look back at my life and say that what is it that phase of life kind of ingrained in me, I would say this is what it did. Focus on doing what is right. A lot of us think about what's in it for me. But guess what? This morning I changed that, okay? That second sentence now is going to read, not what is convenient. All those of you who were paying attention to Ravi Venkateshan this morning, you would have heard him say that. Focus on doing what's right, not what is convenient. So I think I'm going to change that to not what is convenient. Often we, tend to think about what's in it for me, what is the easiest way to get out. Have the courage to stand up and do what you believe in. Courage more than integrity is a take back that I have from this conversation, from that session. Now, how do you know what right is? That's a big dilemma for all of us, right? How do I know what is right, what is wrong? I think, in my opinion, what is right before you act, before you do anything, is what comes from deep within, your inner voice. There's something that will tell you, it will come from very deep within. And that is right. That's before you act. After you act, you will find out. People around you will tell you. The next thing I would like to talk about is, and yeah, absolutely, we need a black belt in humility, and one of the things, like I said, as a child, though I was a rebel, I think because of that disciplined environment, one of the things that got ingrained in me was that faith, the matter of faith, and that faith is there, and when that faith is there, that can move mountains. So one element that faith got into me was, the habit of saying prayers. That I would say it. I didn't know what it meant, I didn't know what it was, but there was something which, like I said, that inner voice said, say your prayers, and I would say my prayers. Not because my mother said it or my dad said it, but because I wanted my inner voice said it, and I would say it. And I think more than anything else, people who pray, I think what we get is, it is that humility that you get. The first thing that you need to pray is to bow your head down, or it comes automatically when you do it over a period of time. So that's a sense of humility that comes in, and that's why I encourage my children to pray. I don't think they listen to me, but I do that. Nitika said, I was in the army. That was the and again I got into the army simply because I was a rebellious student, and that resulted in me getting out with grades that didn't look very great. And my mother always wanted me to become a doctor, but now looking back, maybe I had an engineering brain all the time, and I never became a doctor, and I didn't really know what to do. I was at a phase in my life that I didn't know. Please don't get it wrong here. I was not all that, patriotic, and I have to fight for my country, and I have to, capture Lahore, nothing like that. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what I was doing. And this kind of an option, I went and gave a few exams, but I was very paranoid to go and write the medical entrance exam. I was just not confident. So I would go out, I would tell my parents I'm going to write this AIMS exam, but I would go and sit in a cafe and do something. And actually I used to drink too. So I reduced it much later. I don't drink much anymore. But yeah, so I didn't write those exams. But then I did. Some of my friends said, come along, let's go write the services selection board. I did it. Guess what? I qualified. And then I went into this interview, which is supposed to be a pretty rigorous one. My dad came to drop me in the airport, and then he looks at all these big, tall, bulky guys, hulks, really strong, macho students, youngsters, and he says, don't waste your time, let's go home. I'll find something for you to do. And I was this kid, youngster, frail, short. And then I said, no, I am going. So I go there, and guess what? I qualify. So I just got in. That was another roller coaster I got pushed into. And but that was a very interesting learning and an experience for me. I'm telling you this. Pari talked about what India can do, and there are some moving ideas that are beginning to take shape or at least be talked about in this industry after a long time. If I could influence it, I would do two things. Number one, I would send all Indians into the army, okay, at least for a couple of years, if not 5. That's one thing that I would do. The other thing that I would do is, and those of you who were there in the morning technology session today, if you look at doctors, they learn before they earn. Engineers start learning after we earn. And we also talked in the morning about, how pay scales are high and all that, right? We actually start learning after we start earning. And how much do you think a person who is starting to earn money is going to learn? And that's a big problem with our industry. If I could change that in a way, I would start from way back there and first get them to learn, and then only will I pay them their paycheck. That's another thing I would do. So going back to my army days, I had a very good commanding officer, or the number 2 in my regiment, and I was in the regiment of artillery. And the regiment of artillery normally takes, the guns that fire from 10 or 30 kilometers from behind the enemy lines, right? You deploy during the night so that you're ready to fire early in the morning by first light. That's what you do. And my commanding officer tells me, Srini, so today you lead the regiment. And the regiment is 18 guns. These are big guns like Bofors. You all are familiar with Bofors. So 18 guns, thousands of people, about 400 or 500 vehicles. That's a huge convoy. And then guess what? And I was this arrogant, rebellious youngster, 21 years old, all of 21 years of age. And then I am supposed to take the unit into the deployment area. It's night, it's about midnight. We are supposed to be ready, all done by 5 a.m. in the morning. And then after some time, as I'm going, I suddenly see this Jeep bouncing. This is a narrow road, okay? There is no road for 2 Jeeps to be on one road, just one truck or one vehicle to be on a road. This Jeep bouncing on the fields next to me, and then my commanding officer is screaming at me, Srini, stop. He comes in, where the heck have you taken us? So the whole regiment, the entire fleet is on a narrow, long stretch of road going nowhere, on a wrong route. Okay, completely on a wrong route. And I think that taught me the lesson that you got to carry a good dose of humility, self-doubt. You can never get too confident with what you're doing or where you're going. And a lot of paranoia. Like Andy Grove, I think, said, Intel CEO, ex-Intel CEO, only the paranoid survive, right? So you absolutely need, because the minute you forget your humility, you tend to get very arrogant, and that's what is going to lead to mistakes. One more thing that experience taught me was, it's not you. We think we are good, especially when we have a couple of achievements under our belt. You start believing that you are good. The problem is, the moment you think you are good, you stop being good. The only thing that you have to worry about is, it's all about how good you are at getting better. And that, I think, when I look back at my life, that's what it taught me. That experience taught me. Moving on. Now, this is a great image, right? I'm one of the greatest footballers of our era now. All of you, I'm sure, recognize him. Look at him. Look at that guy. He's surrounded by 5 of his opponents, right? And just for your information, this particular picture, a few seconds after this shot was taken, that was a goal scored by Messi. Okay, so that was a goal. He had overcome all that kind of opposition and opponents surrounding him, the challengers, and he scored a goal. So we got to know this. So you got to believe that you're good. You cannot get overconfident. You got to be paranoid. You got to know that you're good. But please also, I learned this in my life, that if I am good, I will be challenged. And that's what I try to tell the youngsters around me, who want to learn and who want to grow, that if you are good, you will be challenged. And that's the best way to grow and learn more. But then sometimes what happens is, you are challenged in various ways. Some of those that you may not enjoy, you may not like. In my life, the story that I can relate to you is, I quit the army. I quit the army because, like I said, it was not patriotism because of which I joined the army. That I got to be honest about it. But let me tell you this. When you are in a convoy, or when you're in a jeep, or when you're alone, and you go to that border and you see a cross, like I am standing here on the wall out there, at the end of this room, the width of this room is Pakistan, or is China, or is the other country. that patriotism surges in you. You cannot avoid it. It happens. So whether you are patriotic or not, when you are in that kind of a situation, it's like a huge surge. It gets into you. It does happen. But then I quit because I was ambitious. I was in a career. I wanted to do well in my job. And then I noticed that while the army is a great training ground, it's not an awesome career. Okay? And I was quite decisive after about 2 or 2.5 years in the army that I got to get out. I saw that I learned that it is an awesome training ground. That's why I'll send every Indian to the army for 2 to 5 years. But then it's not a great career. Simply because imagine you design and develop and produce software that never gets deployed. You know, what kind of work would that be? Similarly, the army is training and training and training for an eventuality called war, which is not a reality in today's world. That is why it is kind of going down, right? So I found that it's not a great career. So I came out. When I came out, oh my God, I've got 30 seconds left. Can you believe it? I have so much to go. I'm sorry, Zinnov. And I came out, and then that was a deep culture shock. First of all, I did not get the kind of jobs that I wanted to get outside. People told me, you'll get a security job. And I said, I didn't discard that uniform to get into this uniform. I don't want that. You know, so I used to fight in my interviews. I would say, why? Why cannot you not get me into into an HR or into a marketing or some role that I want to get into? Why security? You know, finally I landed in an quote unquote admin job. So I would do anything, all odds and ends, whatever came my way, I would do, right? And in that job, one of the big challenges in those days was what is called this telephone. You know, we had these desk phones, and these desk phones would not work. Sometimes the instrument was faulty, sometimes the office exchange was faulty, sometimes the MTNL exchange or BSNL exchange was faulty. You know, but the damn thing wouldn't work. And it was a huge pain for all our, especially the managers, the sales guys, HR, recruiters, anyone and everyone who needed to reach out and talk to people outside the organization. For everyone, that was a problem. So it used to be a huge problem, and then listening to people, listening to, some of you are in customer-facing areas, sometimes customers can be pretty nasty. They yell and scream and use all kinds of abuses, right? So I used to be on this receiving end of listening to them that my phone is not working, and depending on the crisis, I would listen to all kinds of nonsense, right? And it was pretty much of a trouble. But then back in the army, I used to be at work at 6 a.m. Here, everyone used to come in at 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. So what I started doing was I used to get to work at 6:30 a.m. And then I will go around the entire office, check every phone, every single instrument. Okay, and the new fad in those days was what is called these yellow sticks, the sticky notes. What is it called? The Post-its. That was a new fad. So I will post a Post-it on the phone saying, sir, your phone is not working, and I'll get back to you by 11 a.m. Now, before he calls me, I am telling him his phone is not working, which means he is not going to call me and yell and scream at me. It solved my problem of listening to abuses. So it was a huge relief for me. But then it brought in a big problem. Like Messi was challenged, I was challenged. I was made responsible for the managing director's home and his car. Now, my aspiration to leave the army was not to fix the geyser in his home. That's not why I quit the army. But then that's what I was doing. I would go for about 6 months, and I was wondering what the heck is going on with my life. So when you get challenged and you don't like it, you got to do that. Okay, please don't stick on when life is challenging you the wrong way. I spent a year in IIT Madras. Okay, I'm a non-engineer. I'm a economics graduate, and Zinnov, I think now I must throw up my hands and tell you, if I'm abusing the time here, tell me to stop and I got to get off stage, okay? So I'm a non-engineer. I'm an economics graduate working in an engineering company, kind of survived in this environment, existed in this environment, survived in this environment, and grown in this environment over the last, I think, 21.5 years now, right? I've been in an engineering organization for over 21 years now. And one of those years was spent in sabbatical in IIT Madras. I was part of an incubation, and IIT Madras was very famous, and even now is quite famous for these incubations. Some of them successful, a lot of them not successful. Mine was not successful. Funded by the chairman of Analog Devices, Ray Stata, working with Dr. Ashok Jhunjhunwala and Dr. Bhaskar Ramamurthy, who's the director of IIT Madras now. And it was not going anywhere, and that was beginning to worry me. So one day I was just standing there thinking, brooding, and Bhaskar comes across to me and he says, what's going on? This is not working. Why are you so sad? And I told him, I don't know where we are going, where this incubation is going. Are we going to be successful or not? And then he says, come here, Srini, sit down. And then he tells me, my priority number 1 is my PhD students. My priority number 2 is my undergrad students. 3rd is my research area. 4th is my Mridangam. And he went on, and my project came 8th in the priority list. So that kind of told me, make decisions based on common sense. It was so stark obvious, and I was sitting there, and it just didn't occur to me. Like I said, we were in the startup company that I started, which was called ControlNet. I think Persistent is here, which acquired ControlNet. One of the things we did there was, we used to share knowledge. We used to share every Monday afternoon. We used to stand up in front of the team and do the we used to just say, before my last meeting here and this one, what are the mistakes that I committed? And that actually helped the organization churn out 100 plus A6 or GDS2 files that worked the first time. And I think credit goes to the fact that we shared our mistakes. Please give away, and today morning also, there was the sharing thing that came up in the panel. Please give away everything that you know, and more will come back. You know what, I'm going to skip some of this, right? Yeah. 1 minute, okay. So create a zone for yourself. So after that, I had this opportunity to start Manhattan Associates in India and Bali in India. And that essentially, I think what I did, how I was able to do that was create a zone for myself. And that Formula 1 car was in there because I remember Ayrton Senna saying, you see those tunnels that we drive through? My tunnel starts when I get into my cockpit. So the only way that you create, and that's a meditation. When you lose yourself in your job, it's a meditation. So I'll skip that. So she talked about, some of the other activities I do. I have this beautiful tea garden. There was a story about it, where we got chased by elephants, and because we spoke in the forest. When you go to a forest, you are living in the animal area, animal sanctuary, please hold your voice, and that's why I said, think twice before you talk, read twice before you send email. So it's a beautiful place. I would like to encourage you all to come there. It's in the remotest of parts in South India, about 2.5 hours away from Ooty. A lot of Ramesh is there. I took Madan's card because I want to touch base with him later. A lot of potential Ramesh is there that we need to work with, okay? It's a beautiful place. There's a lot of work that I've done there, which you can see out there. Very, very nice place, and it'll be nice for us to work with those Rameshes there. Finally, while we do all this, one thing that I would like to ask all of you to do is ask yourself every day what you have done for Bali. But once in a while, I was kidding. Ask yourself every day what you do for your company. Please do that. Once in a while, ask yourself what you have done for yourself. And that's what I do. I go ride with my son. Once in a while, I ride on my own too, a lot of things. I go in my tea garden. You see that headlight that's broken. I fell down. I fell down, then we got up again and we went. It was a fun ride. I think among all my rides, this was the best because it was about 3,600 kilometers with my son. So you got to take time out for all those things. And finally, you are not going to get away alive, okay? So please enjoy, right? Thank you very much.